So one of the biggest mistakes that I hear people tell me that they're trying to do to get better, which can work but takes a lot longer, is just riding more. They feel like they know all the techniques or enough techniques and they just need more seat time to build their confidence. But when you intentionally form positive riding habits, you can build your confidence a lot quicker because you're focusing on building your muscle memory. And when it comes to dirt biking or any sport for that matter, muscle memory is super important, especially when it comes to your safety. For example, when you're riding a trail that maybe is new to you and you're coming up to a corner, you don't know what's around that tight corner. Maybe you have to go around trees and you find out that you're going too fast to go around that corner. What you end up doing is either going off the course, maybe the trail, maybe hit a tree, or you try and slam on the brakes. And when you haven't formed a positive braking habit, then you're just gonna resort to what you know how to do because you don't have time to think. So when you come around that corner, you need to quickly stop. You're just gonna slam on the brakes, and what this does, you're going to lock up the tires and you're probably going to slide out, and this could cause you to get hurt. It could break your bike, and we don't want that to happen. And when you intentionally go out and practice positive riding habits, you can build up that muscle memory in much less time rather than going out and riding for the weekend. So just to compare the two, it might take a couple hours to load up your truck or trailer, and then you got to drive an hour or 2 or 4 hours to get to the trail. You ride for a couple hours, and then to get back, it's an all-day thing, or maybe even all weekend, just to get a couple hours of riding in. And you might have gotten a little bit more confident, but if you're not intentional about your riding, you're just kind of riding for fun and hoping that seat time will give you more experience and confidence. But when you're only doing that once or twice a month, you're not going to be building up that muscle memory so that when you go out and do it again 2 weeks or a month later, you're basically going to have to retrain yourself to learn those techniques and that muscle memory. Whereas when you spend intentional time, short periods of time, you can build that muscle memory, which will give you much more control in much less time. Another big mistake is when people, they try to ride too fast too soon. This ends up with you riding over your skill level, whether you're trying to keep up with a fast riding group. Maybe you just get excited, and before you realize you're in over your head, you're flying through a rock section, you just tense up, death grip the bars, and you lose control, and you ended up crashing into the rocks, you hurt your arm, or maybe you fly over the bars, or maybe you just ride into a tree because you're trying to go too fast because you're excited. Well, when you focus on learning positive riding habits, it's a lot safer because you're practicing at much lower speeds. Even though I encourage you not to practice falling, it still might happen. So if you're falling at a lower speed, like less than 5 miles an hour, it's going to hurt a lot less than if you're crashing even at 15 miles an hour. And when you practice these habits at slower speeds, you're going to have a deeper feel, a deeper knowledge of what your bike is actually doing underneath you. And it actually takes more balance and more control to have your bike get traction at lower speeds. So when you understand and feel through the throttle, the clutch, and the brakes how much you can use, how much you can apply to stay in control and stay in balance without falling over at lower speeds, this will give you even more control once you start to pick up your speed. And the third reason why forming positive riding habits is the best way to go is because most of it can be done in your backyard, even if it's small or medium size. You see, if you focus on just going out to the trails, you need to spend all that time loading up, going to the trails, riding, and you might get a little bit better. But when you spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, a few times a week right in your backyard, you can spend a lot less time, but increase your confidence a lot faster because you're actually building up that muscle memory. You could see huge improvements in a matter of a week, or if you're a newer rider, you can see improvements in a day or two after focusing on certain habits. So for example, one of my students, Zoe, she came to me and she was basically afraid to do everything on a dirt bike. She had She has a KLX 140, and she just felt afraid because the bike was heavy. She wasn't even confident turning around her dirt bike. But after going through what she learned from me, just after the first day of practicing what she learned, she said she already had way more confidence riding. You might be thinking, well, this sounds great, Kelly, but how do you know if you actually need to form these positive riding habits? Well, I'm glad you asked, because in my next video, I'm going to show you the top signs and symptoms that you have bad riding habits and you could use some improvement. You can check that video out here when it comes out. I'd like to know what you think. Does this sound interesting to you? Let me know in the comments below. This is Kelly Fager from Motocross Hideout. Learn more, ride more, so that you can stay safe and have fun for many years to come.